Hello everybody, my name is Gene Hanning and I'm the manager of Beaver Creek Christian Youth Camp on the Rio Grande National Forest near South Fork in southern Colorado. I want to share with you a Bible story about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and how they got into a very hot situation and how God rescued them. It's from the book of Daniel, chapter 2, verse 49 through chapter 4, verse 3. After the story, I'll show you how to make fiery furnace ice cream sundaes to celebrate the story, and I'll share a little information that's not in the Bible, but kind of goes with the story. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were Jewish men that lived in Babylon. Their friend Daniel had encouraged King Nebuchadnezzar to make them leaders in Babylon, and things were pretty good for a while. That was until King Nebuchadnezzar, who believed there were many gods and that he could make his own god, decided to make a 90-foot high and 10-foot wide golden statue and ordered everyone in the kingdom to bow down and worship it. Anyone who didn't worship the statue would be thrown into a fiery furnace. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego refused to worship the statue because they knew there was only one true God, our God. There were some people in Babylon who didn't like Jews, and they decided to get everybody into trouble by telling the king that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego wouldn't worship his statue. King Nebuchadnezzar had the three men brought to him, and he asked if it was true that they wouldn't bow down and worship the golden statue. He also reminded them that if they didn't worship the statue, that they'd be thrown into a fiery furnace. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego basically told the king that they would not worship the statue and that they trusted their own true God to rescue them. King Nebuchadnezzar got so mad that he had the fiery furnace made super hot, and he had Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego thrown into it. A little later, the king looked into the furnace and he saw 4 people walking around in the fire. He told those around them, "One of them looks like one of the gods." King Nebuchadnezzar was kind of shaken up, so he called Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to come out of the furnace. When they came out of the fire, the king was shocked to see that they weren't hurt. Their hair and clothes weren't burned. They didn't even smell like smoke. That so impressed King Nebuchadnezzar that he sent this message to all the peoples, nations, and languages inhabiting the entire earth. I wish you much peace. I'm delighted to share the signs and miracles that the Most High God has worked in my life. His signs are superb. His miracles so powerful. His kingdom is everlasting. His rule is for all time. And that's from Daniel 4, verses 1 through 3, in the Common English Bible. I hope that you and I will never have to go through what Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego did to show that our God is the only true God. But it's also good to know that our God will take care of us if we just trust Him. Amen? I also wonder about something. I wonder if Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego went to get something cool to eat and drink after they got out of the furnace. They probably didn't have ice cream in those days, but if they did, I bet Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego would have enjoyed an ice cream sundae. I'm going to show you how to make a fiery furnace ice cream sundae that reminds me about the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. First, I'm going to wash my hands and get everything that I need together. I'm going to use 3 kinds of ice cream because I bet that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego would have each liked a different flavor. I'm going to be using chocolate, strawberry, and vanilla, but you can use any flavors that you want to. Just going to put a little bit of each flavor in my bowl. And then I'm going to put in some hot tamales. And that's to remind us about the fire in that fiery furnace. And I usually use red hots, but our little store in South Fork didn't have any. And finally, I'm going to put just a little bit of whipped topping, and that's to remind us about the smoke that was in that fiery furnace when Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were in there. So my ice cream sundae, my fiery furnace sundae, is ready to eat, but I'm going to put it in the freezer because I want to talk to you about some things, some information that isn't in the Bible that I hope you find interesting. One of the things that people wonder about is what was the fiery furnace used for most of the time? Since the Bible doesn't tell us, there are at least 3 ideas of what that might have been. Some scholars think that it was used to do just what King Nebuchadnezzar tried to do with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego when he threw them into it. It was kind of like a form of capital punishment, not a very nice thing. Other scholars think that the furnace was built to melt the gold that was used to build King Nebuchadnezzar's giant statue. And there's even others that believe that the furnace was used to heat a kiln for bricks and pottery. We may never know the real answer. Another question that people have is how hot can a fiery furnace actually get? And that's something that I know just a little bit about. I used to work in a boiler house at a sawmill. We used to burn sawdust to boil water for steam to run the saws and to do other things around the mill. If we got the fire too hot, 2 things could happen. One was that we would pop a safety valve on one of the boilers, and that would make one of the loudest sounds that you've ever heard. It could really, really hurt your ears. The other thing was that if we got the fire really, really, really hot, we could actually melt the ashes. And when the ashes cooled, it looked something like this. It looks a little bit like pahoehoe lava. We called it fire brick, and we'd have to let the firebox on the boiler cool and break out this fire brick before we could use the boiler again. The last question that I have for you that people often ask is, who was the 4th person King Nebuchadnezzar saw in the fiery furnace? Actually, the Bible does answer that question, kind of, sort of. But I'm not going to talk about it. I'm going to let you talk to your parents, your friends, your church leaders, and others who might be willing to talk to you to help you discover who you think that 4th person was. Thank you for being with me today. I hope you enjoyed the show, the story about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and that you enjoy the fiery furnace Sundays. Most of all, I hope you learned about trusting the one true God, our God. See ya, everybody. God bless.